Good morning, National Dayers! It's Mrs. Erickson. Today is Monday, February 26th. It is the 57th day of the year. There are 309 days left. Happy National Tell a Fairy Tale Day. On February 26th, have a happily ever after kind of day. It is National Tell a Fairy Tale Day. What were once verbal histories, myths, and legends retold around the fire or by traveling storytellers, fairy tales have been written down and become known all over the world. The origins of most fairy tales would fail today's standards of the Association of Fairy Tales. Most traveling storytellers told fairy tales with dramatic detail to make children behave, teach them a lesson, or pass the time, kind of like a ghost story around a campfire. The Brothers Grimm collected and published some of the more well-known tales we're familiar with today. Jacob and his brother Wilhelm set out on a quest to preserve these tales at a time in history when a tradition of verbal storytelling was fading. In 1812, they published their first volume of stories titled Household Tales. First published in 1829, Hans Christian Andersen brought us to written versions of The Princess and the Pea, The Ugly Duckling, and The Little Mermaid. Andersen's stories are sweet and warm. National Tell a Fairy Tale Day encourages you to tell a fairy tale or two. If you think you don't have a fair tale to tell, you might be wrong. Share your favorite fairy tale with family and friends. Try relating them from memory, as this has long been a tradition. Or visit a library or local bookstore for story time. Today is also For Pete's Sake Day, National Pistachio Day, Thermos Bottle Day, and Museum Advocacy Day. All right, National Dayers, today we're going to make a fairy tale light luminary. Gather the following supplies. You'll need a mini jar, like I used a little mini mason jar, but a mini jar, tissue paper, you could do one or more colors, liquid glue, scissors, a tea light candle, and water. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is take your tissue paper and you're going to cut it into small pieces. And then in a bowl, you're going to put some of the liquid glue and add a little bit of water to thin it out. Mix that up really good. And then you want to paint the outside of the jar with the glue mixture, covering the entire outside. Take your pieces of tissue paper and cover all of the glass with the tissue paper, and it'll stick to the glue you painted on there, but then you're also going to take your glue mixture and paint more of the glue over the tissue paper until the whole thing is a jar covered in tissue paper with wet, gluey tissue paper on the outside. And you want to do this until every single piece of glass is covered. And then let it dry completely. And look at how cool this is. All you have to do is put a little candle inside of it. I have battery operated ones. And then it looks like there's a fairy twinkling inside of the jar. I like this one. All right, National Dayers. So one of the best things about fairy tales is the ability to pretend. So I'm pretending in my cool little jar here that we made. If I turn my light on and I put it inside of the jar, that I have some fairies in here. See them flashing and blinking in there to tell me some fun stories. Isn't that great? All right, National Dayers, keep smiling. Have a marvelous Monday. Go read a fairy tale, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye. Once upon a time, there was a cute cat named Commando. That's my fairy tale every day. It's time for super spectacular shoutouts. Our shoutouts today start us off with Mr. TJ, Mr. Donovan, Miss Julie, Miss Zarangle, and Miss Teresa, and everyone in the 4th and 5th ABL classroom at Donahue Elementary School in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Next up is Mrs. O and everyone in the Transition 18 Plus program at Rhode Island Transition Academy in Bristol, Rhode Island. Next up is Mrs. M, Mr. Mon, Mrs. Suni, Mr. Holly, Coach A, Mrs. Maria, and Mrs. H, and all of the exceptional children's students at Providence High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. And our fourth shout out today goes out to Mrs. Oliver and Mrs. Wilhite and everyone in the MOID and ASD2 program at Berkmar High School in Lilburn, Georgia. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Teachers, our shout-out form is currently closed due to popularity, which is amazing. Thank you for watching, and I will keep you posted when we're taking more shout-out requests. And here it is, your updated, super spectacular shout-out map.